All right, I believe we're live, but my preview is an all black screen for some reason. All of these streams just work so weird for me. I bet you I have like one setting wrong or something.
You know, Bob, I really expected more professionalism
No,
out of
you
you,
didn't. All
I
right,
have
I
to say.
believe we're live.
No, I really didn't.
All right, so I think we're going to start right away just by calibrating the scope because I want to get all of these measurements correct. Important to me that I just do this right. And I'm going to move you over. Oh, no, wrong one. Just so I can show people the side of this thing. Of course, there's a paper in the way, but all right. So obviously we got to start by undoing all of these BNC connectors, right?
If we're going to do a calibration, that's exactly what we need to do.
Okay.
Well, if we're going to do a automated self-calibration, that's exactly what we need to do.
I'm going to try to keep them in order so that when I plug them all in, they all match still. We get these out of the way. So now one of the things that was driving me crazy is when I go to one channel on the scope, and I make it go to the cursor, do a measurement here. It goes by, about a millivolt at a time. But another channel, and I forgot which one it was, when you go do the measurement, it goes, yeah, this one, it's a percentage of a volt. So is it easier to reset the whole scope or to just try to fix that? You
Well,
said
it
push the
depends.
button
So
in
I,
to reset it, right?
I think on the 1054Z, so on the big button, on the big my on the scale button, yeah, is that button? Can you push that button in on the scope?
Yes.
Okay, so now see if that gives you a granular adjustment. So now turn.
No.
Oh, no, we're not doing time base. Okay, okay, I'm sorry. You're in the measurement. You're in measurement mode, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So now you're getting gosh, where do you go to set that on this unit? Um I don't remember, Bob. I don't remember on this particular unit how you change the granular the adjustment when you're in measurement mode. Uh when you're using the intensity rotary encoder there on this unit. Um, what the hell did you, Bobby? What did you do?
I have no idea. Do I hit the math button?
No, 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 no. You go back into measurement. Go click measure or cursor.
Yep.
Scroll. Um, let me look real quick. Let me see if I can help you. Just give me 1 second.
Check the chat while we're looking. What's up, everybody? Hey, Steve, what's going on? Winter Hell, how you doing? Yeah, the RetroTing 5X is absolutely awesome. And it all depends on your setup and whether you'd really benefit from the 4K. Obviously, I mean that with love. There's no disrespect there. It's just, if you have yourself a beautiful 4K OLED, yeah, you're going to love the 4K. But if you're like me and you mostly have just cheap Walmart TVs, stick with a 5X. Have one OLED and the rest is cheap crap.
Well, press the press the rotary encoder in. While you have the cursor highlighted, what you do? No, 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 no. The rotary encoder for intensity. Push it in. Yeah, that button. Push it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, just push it in. Okay. Does that? Hold on. I'm getting my scope online. Now, does
No, all
that
it
have
does is
any?
highlight something else when I push that in.
It moves it down an option, doesn't it? All right. Hold on. Let's see. So you're here. I'm in cursor A. Cursor manual. All right. Let's see. Here.
I legitimately pushed every button on this thing trying to reset it, and I have no clue what I did to change it into this mode.
So do you see down there the little refresh button? Hit the blue button at the very bottom where it says cursor AB. Yeah,
Uh,
it should reset them. No, 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 no. That no, no, no.
Cursory
Go up.
B.
No, no, the button underneath that. The blue, the very small. Yeah, there you go. All right, now press that twice. Now try to make an adjustment. It should move in 20 millimeter. It shouldn't move in 20. Is it moving in 20? And
No,
it should
that
be
just
moving
selects
in
whether
20
I want
millimeter
to
increment.
move cursor A or B together.
Okay, and it joins them together. Okay. Go into
Funny,
the
I never
second
knew
view.
that
So hit
was
the.
a thing. That actually is very handy. Shit.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I'm trying. This is so funny. It's moving in. Let's see. Let's see. Let me go into the next menu. Units. Okay, Bob. Go down one more menu. I figured it out.
Okay.
So go into. Yeah, hit down once and go to units. Hit three blue buttons down, and you're moving in. Yeah, hit that button. Yep. Okay, so you're moving. Okay, yeah, no, no. Okay, that's set correctly too. God,
S. It was
that's a
supposed to
really
be
good
set to S.
question. Yes, that's supposed to be set to S. How do you move? How do you get granular control? Yeah, let's just reset it. Let's just reset it.
All right, how do you do
That's
that?
okay.
Where's the reset?
Okay, so you want to do it. So first of all, do you want to do a reset or do you want to do a factory calibration?
Can we
What do you
just
want
do
to do
both?
first? Sure.
All right. Where exactly do we go for the reset?
So what you want to do is you want to press next to your cursor button, you want to press utility.
All right. Okay. On system.
Okay? And then when you press utility, yeah, no, not system. When you get into utility, you want to go into options. See my yep, yep. And so when you get into options, you want to get into I'm telling you wrong. Hold on one second. It's been a long time since I've reset mine. All right, give me one second. Okay, so here's what you do, Bob. Here's what you do. Turn off the scope. Turn it off. Get out of all
Okay.
that. Just don't worry about any of that. There's a different procedure.
Okay. Turn it off.
Turn it off. And when you turn it off, all you have to do is you have to press the fifth button. Oh God, you have to press the fifth button 5 times.
Uh,
So the fifth button down. Hold on.
on the left or on the right?
That's a good question. On the fifth, on the left, on the left. Well, that's a good question. Hold on. I'll tell you. Okay. So you see the dark, the left side of the panel. Hold the fifth button from the top. Um, it's hard for me to see because my camera's in the way. My camera's on the left side of the scope of where you need to work.
Oh shit!
From the
I was wondering. I'm looking in my. I was looking
oh, there
in
you go.
the. All right,
Because I was trying to like do it in my head.
that
So
one right
yeah,
there.
fifth button down from the top. Yeah, hold it in and and keep it held in as you power the scope on and continue to have it held in.
Okay, that's funny. I'm looking at my preview window in my camera right here, which obviously doesn't have the OBS overlay on it. So I was like, how could you not see it? I'm holding it right here. Yeah. Oops. My bad.
No, you can let it go now.
Let it go.
Yeah, you can let it go.
All right.
Now we should be baseline back. Um, that's the easiest way to do it. You can jump into the menus here too. So here's an
Hey,
easy
Real
way of
OC
going
Gamer,
about it.
thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Any recommendations for VGA to BNC cables or adapters? Just whatever's on Amazon or Monoprice or anything like that. They should all be decently shielded at least because those usually require shielding. Funny enough, I don't think that worked.
Oh, hold on. Go to the menu
Yeah. Okay.
and then select and so
Menu. All right. So you know what?
top
I'm
left
gonna just
hand. I think
move
it's
you
top
out of the
left
way
hand.
for now so you
Yeah,
can
get
see
me out
what
of the
I'm
way.
doing. And
Yeah,
then
get me out of the way.
All right.
Bob.
So where
Okay,
am I?
bottom right hand. Bottom right
Bottom
hand.
right,
Bottom
that
right
one.
hand, right above force. Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right, so when you get in the menu, select system.
Oh wait, I got to go back to
System
the
in there
other channel.
somewhere.
Sorry. Menu setting.
No, 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 no. Is that a menu button in the very top left hand, Bob? Yeah, the very
Oh, the
top left
top. You
hand.
said the other menu button. All right. Menu.
Where is system at in this thing? Hold on, let me find it. Those are all measurement width, utility.
Because that factory
Where?
reset definitely didn't work.
Um, clear. Turn off the channels. Go to menu. No, hold on. Hold on. Let me take a look here. Turn that off. Where is it? Okay. Hold on. They've made this a little difficult. Um, let's see.
I like how in the instructions it says go to menu system reset, but there's 3 menu buttons.
Yeah, so the documentation has never been very good. Let's see. Well, you should. Okay, so here are the other here's some other instructions. Power off the scope. Turn it off. Don't worry
Hmm.
about any of this. Just turn it off. Okay. Now I'm going to read these first before you do them, so that we have an understanding. So you're going to press and hold the fifth button from the top on the left side. So count 5 down from the very top.
Okay.
Well, that's not the very top.
Well, are you sure it's from the very top? Because we did 5 from the top last time, and the instructions I just found said locate the 6 dark gray menu buttons. Press the 5th from the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4,
See,
5, 6.
this is why their documentation has always been ass. It's always been one thing or the other. So yeah, okay, try that. Yeah, hold it in, and you should hold that in. You should hold that in until the indicators change and the bottom button is labeled default. So on the LCD there, it should say default here in just a moment when everything comes online.
Nope.
No, okay. So try it from the very top then. Just indulge me.
We already did that one.
Okay, so I don't know. I really don't know. That's really interesting. We can definitely self-calibrate it, but setting this thing now you jailbroke this 2 to 100 megahertz, right? We call it a jailbreak, but
Yeah. So I guess let's just calibrate it, and I'll just try to be very careful of the decimal measurements,
well,
because I think the
hold on. Let's just take 2 more minutes.
okay,
So if you press the storage button, if you if you press the six, yeah. So press the storage button in the top right hand.
okay,
Okay, now if you press that button, um, and you go down to go up, and you go to hold on. Then when the indicators for the buttons alongside the right side of the screen change, you will see the bottom button is labeled default. Do you see? No, I don't see anything like that. let me take a look. Storage. Yeah, yeah, I see it. I see it. So press storage. Just get out of that.
All right, where am I going now?
Press storage. The button, the three. No, no, no,
Okay,
no. That
storage,
button. Yeah. See default at the very bottom. Press the last dark blue function button.
default.
Yep. Everything has now been. All of your cursors and all of your granular measurements have been reset. So that should. So your cursor there should absolutely not be. It should be resolving in increments of. There you go. Yep. There you go.
Yeah, okay.
And sorry about that. God, that's so convoluted.
It
Okay.
really is. It
Do we
makes no
want to do?
sense.
So I'm sorry that I forgot how to do that.
Eh,
Um,
whatever.
do we want to do a calibration before we do anything else? That just takes a minute.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, because then we're making apples to apples here. So I'm assuming I'm going to need my probe and sent to 10x, not 1x, right?
Yes, yes. Set your probe to 10x.
We'll start with channel 1, because why not? And we have to calibrate each channel, correct?
No, 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 no. So for right now, so okay, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I poorly explained this. If you want to get a good baseline, now this isn't super in depth, but if you want to get a pretty good baseline, you can use the generator, which is what you're hooking up to on your scope. And if you're wanting to get a peak to peak measurement, use that little generator, connect to it, and you should read. I think it puts out 3 volts peak to peak exactly. Now, if that probe, when you do a cursor adjust when you do a cursory measurement in the vertical axis, which is in the voltage domain, if you don't get dead on the nose 3 volts or 5 volts, I can't remember even what it is now. I'm having a terrible brain day. But if you don't get that, then you definitely need to do a quick self calibration. So you've got it connected here. You've got your probe set up. Um, what are we what are we seeing here on the scopes?
Um, so we basically, I just have it plugged in. I didn't start anything, so we're going to have to adjust into the settings to start this calibration, or to start the generation, I mean.
Okay. Okay, so all you have to do is you've got it connected. Here, I'm going to try to do it with you. Give me
Hey, real quick in the
just
chat,
1
what's up,
second.
Wizzo? What's up, Burial? Hey, Mike, I'm actually going to be testing the original I/O board, or one of the original, versus the new, so you'll be able to get that exact sense of what an upgrade this would be. If it's an upgrade, I know nothing about it. The box is still sealed. It's being used to pull up my camera right now. So, but all right. So
Okay.
let me know what I
Here we go.
press.
Just need a second. All right. Okay, so I tell you what.
Why don't we just
The
do the auto calibrate on all the channels and then do the voltage generator to double check it?
well, that's well, hold on just 1 second. Um, that's actually what I was going to suggest. Let's not even use the generator because that's it's not a signal generator. It's just a little test signal output. Let's just go ahead and self-calibrate all the channels, and then rather than using that, we'll actually use a system. We'll actually use a system to see how close we are. Because the problem you were explaining to me yesterday was that you were getting a measurement, and then 10 minutes later, same system, you were getting a slightly different measurement.
There
So
was two
let's
problems. That's one of them, and the other problem was that if I use a probe and plug it into port 1, I get a very slightly different reading than if I unplug that probe and plug it into port 3 or something like that. So obviously that's just
okay.
some drift in the calibration.
Well, could be something else. Could just be an old analog, video signal here. There we go. That's better. Now you can see my scopes. But in case I have to do something. So yeah, unplug all of the probes, all of your anal probes there.
Yep, the only thing
Get rid
left
of
is
all
the
those.
actual probe, and it's plugged in. Let me grab my extra light here so make sure everybody can see it. All right, so do you see where that's plugged in now in the lower right? I have the probe on top and the ground right below it.
Yeah, everything has to be unplugged, so there's no reason to have any of that plugged in.
Oh, even
Because what we're
unplug the
doing,
single probe.
unplug everything. In order for it to do the calibration,
Okay,
everything has to be decoupled.
so
So
nothing is plugged in right now.
nothing is plugged in. Nothing should be touching the scope. You don't have to worry about anything else. All you have to do is go to press the menu button there at the top. Hold on, let me get you there. No, not that menu button. Um, oh my God.
I asked you to join the
Um,
stream because I thought you knew what you were doing.
I do know what I'm doing. Press the utility button. The menu button, Bob, is all the three buttons right there. That little cluster of six buttons, 3 by 2. Those are technically the menu buttons, just so that you
Okay.
know. All right, so scroll down, go down one menu setting. Okay, so self calibration. It's the first function button there. There you go. Now everything's disconnected, right? Yep. Start. Okay, it's going. This will take just a minute.
You know what's funny is the last time you and I did this was when I was getting
Uh,
those 850 millivolt readings from one of these IO boards. And I was like, this
yeah.
has to be my fault. There's no way this could be it. And you walked me, I mean, this was a couple years ago, but you walked me through all of this stuff and we tested it together. And you were like, you might be stupid, but you're not getting this measurement wrong.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. I remember that with these IO boards. These
If
IO boards
Voltar's
have
quiet, let
always.
me turn him up a little bit then so we match. I
Oh, I'm
wanted to make,
sorry.
no, 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 it's me. I just, my audio settings are always weird. Um, Hey, thank you so much for the super chat, Tony. That is really, really nice of you. Yeah, we're, I didn't want to do this unless I made sure the scope was perfect. So thank you so much to Voltar for joining me to make sure that we get this right. And then
Yep.
once the scope is back up to where my normal settings are, because of Cordimoto's RG bench, the rest is super, super easy. There's no doubt I could do that confidently. But getting everything calibrated and set back up, I just, I'm not an expert at scopes. I just know how to use one. It's a big difference.
Just it won't take this long. It'll speed up here pretty quickly.
It's all good. All
But
I
this is
always
important.
I'm always very honest with people. Some of the streams that I do are like fun, laid back, let's play a video game. Others are super nerd deep dives like this. And I'm always honest and let people know like this is not going to be a fast-paced stream. We're here for science and to hang out with each other, not for not for super
w-
entertainment values.
Well, I'm having a great time, and it's fun and everything's enjoyable. But the fact of the matter is, so what you want to do when when you're questioning the accuracy of your oscilloscope is the first thing that I do is I will, and if I've busted some settings up. Now the 1054Z I've had for the past several years, but I'm still used to my old Rigel and Tektronix 100 megahertz scopes, even though the menus are fairly identical. With the Ultrascope software running on this thing, I've kind of gotten uh, um, spoiled. So navigating some of those things isn't as second hand to me, isn't as second nature to me. But the point is, when you have a scope and you're wondering, is this drifted out a little bit? The best thing to do, if you don't have like a signal generator, is just to use this little voltage output here on the bottom right hand, and that'll give you a pretty good baseline because you know what that's supposed to be. And if you do a cursory measurement or if you do anything automatic, I first of all, I never recommend using automatic measurements. That's a huge no-no because that'll get
Yeah,
you
that
in
was the
trouble
very first thing
8 out of
Steve
10
taught me is
times.
don't do auto unless you're talking about that $30 scope that you're just using to make sure that your super gun isn't going to blow out your equipment. That's totally different. If you're doing
Of
actual
course.
measurements that it comes down, you really want to do what we're doing and test, or you're developing products, then you have to do manual.
Or don't set your scope to DC coupled when you're testing an AC coupled signal.
Yeah, that too.
I'm looking at you, Bob.
It happens.
So
This should
so
be an
but
OnlyFans, man. With you just showing your moves with your tank top right there, this could have been an OnlyFans video.
you know, you would know more about OnlyFans than I do, Bob.
Dude, you
So,
just
you
dropped
know,
the ball on that one so hard. You should have said, you know more about moves than I do. Come on, man. I know it's early for you,
we
but get sharp.
I'm really tired. Listen, I listen, guys. I have been working just an update on for everyone. Maybe this is going to take 20 years. I was absolutely swamped. Everything's going good. I get in frame here. Everything's back in order. I spent yesterday from 2 p.m. till about 3 a.m. 4 a.m. working on Super Nintendo stuff. All of that is back on the chopping block, getting that out, well, before, hopefully by 4th of July or in July rather, not August. I that has been my life mission, and because of that, and because of everything else, I am exhausted every day. But that's okay. So I don't think very well. I'm not thinking very well right now because I am just lethargically pooped. But things are going well over here. Things are going pretty good. Not that anyone asked. Bob, you never asked, you son of a bitch.
I was going to ask, though. Somebody in the chat was talking about ultrasonic cleaners. Aren't you considering making a video about that?
I have been talking about ultrasonic cleaners for years, and I am asked all the time because I started to incorporate that in my own service and in my own process about 4 or 5 years, 6 years ago, and I have wanted to create content concerning restoration and refurbishments and how an ultrasonic cleaner can help with that, and I am. That is absolutely something that I'm working on right now. I've got a variety of sizes here that I'm going to be going over, best practices, do's and don'ts. Um, a lot of people ask me, what size do you get and what size do you use the most? And you know what the fact of the matter is? I'll tell you what the fact of the matter is. The fact of the matter is the size of ultrasonic cleaner that I find myself using more than anything isn't the big $200 or $300 unit. It's quite literally It's quite literally the $30 and the $20 unit. The $20 unit's actually better than the $30 unit.
Wow,
So
really?
ultrasonic cleaning. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And I'll tell you why. This unit, the $30 unit, which is perfectly fine, it's a small 800 milliliter. No, 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 it's a 600 milliliter cavity. And it has very basic options. It has very basic functionality, and that's all an ultrasonic cleaner is. An ultrasonic cleaner really is just basic functionality. There's nothing really intricate to them.
Do you have an affiliate
It's
link for that that you could drop in the chat for anybody that wants to buy a small one?
No, but I'll get one because I need the money. But I don't recommend that one so much. I recommend this one. And you know what I use this for? Let me show you what I use this for, and I'll show it off a little bit more. But this is what I use. This is what I use this for. Let me get over here in real time. I
I
use
might shit
this one.
myself if he pulled his pants down and dropped his junk in it. Here's
Um,
what I use my ultrasonic cleaner for. Plop!
listen, listen, listen. They don't make an ultrasonic cleaner large enough for that, Bob. You know that. You know that personally. They don't make one big enough for that. So what I use this for, a lot of us still, believe it or not, a lot of us still. Hold on. Sorry about this, guys. A lot of us still yard sell. A lot of us still yard sell, and a lot of us are still refurbing things. Systems are great, but you know what I do? Controllers all the time. You disassemble this thing, you fit it in there. You're great. You bought a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy from the you bought a Game Boy from the flea market or from a friend, and they're disgusting. Boom. You bought some Wiimotes because those things are starting to become a little more difficult to find, even though they made 50 million of them. Disassemble it, boom.
Yeah, that's all
I don't.
excellent, excellent points. Just
So
for the
in other
chat,
words,
he's not
go ahead.
suggesting you put them in fully assembled. Disassemble them.
No, no. No. I'm just showing you that there's the volume is here to clean these things, and
Right,
so
right, right.
rather than having to fill up my large 10 liter, 15 liter, 30-liter ultrasonic cleaner and what use a bunch of material, the small ones, like it's like a half a bottle of water or a fourth of a bottle of water in some cases, and it's just so much better. So use size. Everyone wants to spend a bunch of money on an ultrasonic cleaner because they think they have the biggest one. That is nonsense. Get and only use the ultrasonic cleaner that's just as big as it needs to be to do the job that you're doing. And the good news, literally $20, and I'll be happy to send a non-affiliate link to the actual merchant that I bought this from just a little while ago. And I have used this thing probably 2 or 3 days out of the week, refurbing all of my stuff.
So what
Like
you just said
I'm
added
telling
a perspective that I've never considered before. Because I was always thinking, let me just save up and get a bigger one so I could also put things like vinyl records in it. But the fluid that you use in it is also going to have to be replaced every time you use it. Or I guess in the case of vinyl records, maybe every 2 or 3 or something like that. But still, that's wasting a ton of fluid if all I want to do is fill this thing up to put a disassembled controller in it. So buying two
well,
would actually probably be a better idea for most people who want to do both, right?
so here's the thing about fluid. Fluid doesn't necessarily have to be replaced every time you do it, but a lot of people want to spend a fortune. I mean, and an absolute fortune on these proprietary formulas, these proprietary fluids, and you really don't need to do that. 9 times out of 10, what this consists of is a little Dawn Dish Platinum dishwashing soap, and some water, and maybe a touch of alcohol. If something is terribly soiled, in other words, if it's very disgusting, I will put a I'll put 4 parts bleach to 100 parts water, which means about half a teaspoon of bleach will go into this, which is perfectly safe for a 5-minute rinse for all of these plastics and even all these stickers. But I don't spend a lot of money. If you have tap water, even tap water is perfectly fine for this. If you have tap water and you go to
Well,
the
you're talking
dollar
about
store
for
and you buy a
plastic parts. You're not talking about for PCBs.
For PCBs, sure, sure. For PCBs, I won't use well, it depends. So there are a couple of different things, and there are a couple of different approaches for printed circuit boards. The thing about printed circuit boards is everyone is always talking about, well, you need to make sure that it's not conductive, and you need to make sure that nothing's going to short across it. That's true. So for PCBs, if you want to be super careful, deionized water, or or just buy some water bottles. Just buy a pound of water bottles at Walmart or anywhere that you want. Um, that takes care of that. Now, a lot of people want to spend a fortune on like this Brinson proprietary fluid. Such a total waste of money because they think that it has superior flux removing capabilities when you're cleaning an old PCB. Um, I think that's total nonsense, and I think that's a huge waste of money. Make your own PCB ultrasonic fluid cleaner. So it's really simple. You want a water content that doesn't have any minerals or have any sort of conductive contaminants. So tap water, you can use it, but unless you really understand this stuff, I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely wouldn't recommend tap, but just distilled water, right?
Distilled water, deionized water, distilled water. Both of these have filtration, so all those minerals. Do you know why we put minerals in water? We put minerals in water so that our body doesn't, so that when we drink the water that we drink doesn't leach the minerals from our body and create a deficiency. So the reason we put minerals in our water is not to really necessarily give us water to get to replenish our minerals, but it's to keep our bodies from expunging our minerals that we have into the water that we're drinking as we pee it out of our pee holes, or in your case, your vagina. So my point though is my point is, sorry, I'm just being a jerk. My point is You don't have to spend a ton of money on proprietary cleaners. You don't have to. Um, water is cheap. Isopropyl alcohol is cheap, and detergents are cheap. Detergents that aren't don't have that do not have a fragrance content, or they don't have. There are a couple of different ways you can go about this. You can get a, let's say, a soap or a detergent that's high in alkalinity, and you can get a detergent or soap that's high in acidity. White vinegar, believe it or not, for a 5 or 6 minute cycle, with proper dilution, is very safe and extremely effective at if you're tackling a bunch of things. It can be great at knocking solder flux down. It can also be great if you're dealing with an old board and you're dealing with surface rust on large planes and large components. Like, that's a huge problem. And I'm telling you, white vinegar, not as the sole cleaner, but as a component, as a part of the formula for a cleaner, is a godsend for arcade PCBs, because a lot of
Yeah,
these
that's what
arcade
I always
PCBs,
thought is distilled or fully deionized water and fully ionized, fully deionized
yes,
water
ionized.
and a little bit of white vinegar, I've always heard. But what I didn't realize, and maybe this is just total ignorance, is that for just plastic, you could just use tap water and some Dawn dish soap. I didn't realize that at all. I never thought that.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just some good old fashioned water, Dawn dish soap, maybe a touch, and I mean a touch of bleach if it's heavily soiled and disgusting. I've released a few little quick videos showing that whole process on Twitter, and I've shared that before. I've been sharing little videos like that using the ultrasonic cleaner since around 2020, and people were always really interested in that. And um, unfortunately, I get a lot of it's interesting how things like that work. A lot of people, including, let's say, modders and people who are, sort of doing this sort of work, they have that equipment. But in my opinion, they do more harm than good with it, because they're using it incorrectly, and they're actually causing more damage, or they're causing more problems for the system than the system ever had before they've dumped it in an ultrasonic cleaner. And that's mainly due to all the chemistry that's mainly a result of the chemistry from all the shit that they're just throwing in these ultrasonic cleaners. Um I've seen people put, what is that stuff called? Oh my god. Um, I've seen people put, my god, Bob, you suck. I don't know
It's
what's wrong
okay.
with me
We'll
today.
jump into the chat for a second. Leslie
Yeah, I'm
said, please
sorry, everyone.
explain fluoride. No, we're going to get labeled things. We're going to get the stream canceled. If you want to really know why there's fluoride in our water, go look it up and you won't believe it. You'll think it's a conspiracy theory. You won't believe it's real, but it is actually the real reason is that freaky and scary. There was a couple people that said, what about water? Using water for PCBs and then flushing it out. I am never comfortable doing that because you never know what microscopic little bits are going to start and to corrode. And when it does it, it's not going to be something that you look and see and go, oh, I missed a spot. It's going to start to corrode underneath components, and you're never going to be able to tell that until it's completely rotted out. So I don't ever use standard water on PCBs. But what I would ask is when you have a PCB, like let's say we have fully distilled water, I buy a jug of cheap distilled water, I put like a capful or two of white vinegar in it, we do a 5 minute cleaning. At that point, when it's out, tap it dry, hit it with some compressed air. And would you also give it an alcohol bath at that point? Or is it just distilled water and white vinegar with some compressed air afterwards going to be enough to clear all that out?
I'm gonna go back and say I use tap water to clean PCBs all the time. But there's a very specific process. And to answer your question, when you're using things, especially detergents, and you're using things that may leave a film, or that may leave some sort of, let's say, aftertaste on the board, the most important thing, a lot of people don't do this either. When you're using an ultrasonic cleaner, just because you pull that piece of plastic or that printed circuit board from the vat doesn't mean that it's clean. You need to perform a clean water rinse. Now, when you're doing your clean water rinse, I would suggest that you don't use tap water, But if you use tap water during the process and now you're going to rinse the board, I recommend using isopropyl alcohol, 95% isopropyl alcohol. And what the isopropyl alcohol is going to do is it's going to act as a carrier fluid. A carrier fluid simply binds to the board and it carries any water, any fluids that are remaining, any residuals that are on the board, and it's going to push them off the board and drain to wherever you're doing this, hopefully in a sink or something like that. So regardless if you're using mineral free water or if you're using tap water, you need to do a rinse with a carrier fluid that is not conductive, in my opinion. So if you're at home doing this, a spray bottle with isopropyl alcohol, hold the board vertically and spray the board down and let everything drip off. That way you've used that as a carrier to carry everything that was left on the board off and then let it dry. That's my personal recommendation for anyone who wants to be super safe. That's not always super necessary, but what is necessary is if you're taking this time to and to use an ultrasonic cleaner to clean a board, to clean a printed circuit board, to clean plastics, it's like taking a bath after shitting yourself for 3 days and just sitting in your own soup without showering. Like, it's great that you took a bath, but you just swam in your own crap. An ultrasonic cleaner is no different. It's great that the ultrasonic cleaner is great at breaking up these heavily soiled deposits and freeing them from the board.
But you're still gonna
That's
take a
not.
shower
But
afterwards.
you've still
I
got to
like that
rinse it off.
analogy a lot. I'd like so
You've
badly
got
to
to rinse it
believe
off.
you, Zach. You sound like you know what you're talking about, but somebody with 1 million followers on YouTube said to just put the stuff in your dishwasher. So they have more followers than you. Maybe we should just listen to them.
Bob, at this point, everybody except for you has more followers than me. So everyone,
That is
whatever.
sadly true.
I'm sorry. That was really
Nah, it's
mean.
all good.
I don't deserve the followers that I have. I don't know why I have followers.
By the way, if you buy brand new vinyl, you still need to at least wipe it down and clean it. I was gifted an amazing, I don't know if it's called Project or Project, but it's a cleaner that it spins it around and you put some fluid on it, and that's great. But what I was really told is to do that and ultrasonic cleaning as well. So do the brush cleaning first to get all to take the bath, if you will, to get the days worth of shit off of the record, and then put it in the ultrasonic cleaner. And you would just need distilled water for that, right? No reason to do anything else for vinyl, right?
Well, the thing is with cleaners, everybody thinks that you have to go with some sort of super detergent or some super solvent. You want to be as gentle as possible. What you're doing is, as far as vinyl is concerned, I think you would probably just want to do vinyl. You're getting like oils from your hands and dust and debris. Water should be more than sufficient. But the thing about using any sort of solvent or detergent, or let's say catalyst in your ultrasonic fluid, ultrasonic cleaners work by they have a transducer that creates that creates this harmonic frequency that creates all of these tiny millions of little air bubbles. And the mechanism of action for an ultrasonic cleaner is if you have a piece of plastic or something in the ultrasonic cleaner, these little bubbles come to the surface of whatever you have in there and they explode. It's called cavitation. It's just millions of bubbles exploding at once. That doesn't require a cleaner, and actually some cleaners that are high in viscosity can mitigate this effect. So the purpose of putting any solvent or any sort of detergent in there is not to help with the bubbles exploding. It's just to work alongside this mechanical action of cleaning. So you have a little bit of a chemical action going on too that lends itself. So, records are one of those things that aren't going to be heavily soiled with fluxes or other sorts of substances. We're talking about oils from your hands, and we're talking about dust that might be settling on them. I don't see any reason why just water wouldn't be perfectly sufficient for that. We use these other solvents, and we use these other fluids with circuit boards and everything else because those things have fluxes, they have all sorts of chemicals, they have all sorts of debris. But something that's not very heavily soiled, there's really no reason for that as far as I'm concerned. The ultrasonic cleaner by itself is good enough.
All right, so everything just finished. It said complete, please restart. So I turned it off and back on again. Now I'm setting up the probe with the lead on top and the ground on the bottom, although I don't think that actually matters. And how do we now calibrate or test each individual channel?
Well, I mean, look, it's just a matter of plugging the probe in. You don't need to do that. We don't need to do that.
Okay.
Again, we're not going to use that to test this. We're going to use a real application. Let's get out of console and let's do some tests. So get out of console. Let's put out a
Well, we're
white
just going to use
screen.
this original, the original I/O board because we need to test this as a baseline anyway to see what to compare
Perfect,
it to.
perfect
So,
baseline. So just
now
take
I
the
am
measurement from.
not
Go ahead.
going to be
Yes, Bob.
using. Well, you know
Yes,
what?
Bob.
Let me just. All right. So,
I'm here for you,
these
Bob.
T connectors right here, right?
Uh huh. Hmm.
If
Yep.
this is still on camera, right? Yeah. If I do
Hmm.
this and we leave it plugged in with a T connector, that's not going to skew a reading, right? These are the expensive ones that Steve told me to buy.
For the sake of posterity, I would however you have it loaded, I would keep it loaded. There might be a very small stray discrepancy, but the best practice here is to if you have both sides loaded all the time, you need to keep both sides loaded all the time throughout your test.
All right, then I'm going to
So
plug this directly into the scope and
that's what I
not use the
suggest.
display at all. We're still going to have to figure out how to test the analog side when we switch to the new I/O board. But for this current test, we're just going directly from the RG bench uh, into with nothing else, and I'll have the load turned on the RG bench. And then we're going to go connect directly to the scope, so there's really no chance of discrepancy here. All right, and I'm also going to switch views now so you all could see basically everything that I'm seeing. So hold on for a shaky cam. Be warned, shaky cam incoming. I try not to make everybody want to vomit in these streams. So, and
There you
I'm going to
go.
also switch lenses so that you could have a much wider field of view for this as well. And
What is all that
okay.
distortion there? Oh, what is that? What is the those stray distortions there in the top of the screen? Is it just the camera being funny, or might have been the camera being
No,
funny?
Sonic the Hedgehog's playing.
Oh, that's what that is. That's an active video line. Okay, okay,
Yeah. Now I'm going to switch
okay,
this
gotcha.
over. Oh, I hit the wrong button. To load. I am going to go with the HD RetroVision test suite, not because there's anything wrong with the 240p test suite. It's because of laziness. When you hit launch, it loads the 100% color bars, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. So let me get that loaded, and then let me throw the scope up and start doing the measurements. Hey, what's up, Sam? You got the same scope? I like this one. This is the one that
Yeah, I love it.
he taught me how to use. If anybody wants it, just retrorgb.com/oscilloscope.hdmi or look at the tools in the side tool section. Not only do I have links to it, I have links to
Fucking fries.
the videos that
I
Steve
can't
and I
stand
made
it.
where Steve basically taught me how to use it.
Steve is doing great, by the way. I want to say to everyone, Steve as well. He's coming back in real time. Dreamcast component cables from HD Retrovision are absolutely happening. Absolutely happening. And I've been working very hard with them on that and to get those out in production. I just wanted to make that comment publicly.
Any idea why these scopes do B minus A instead of A minus B? Am I just not
I
visualizing
think that
that?
I think that has to do with the fact that I think the reason for that is they consider um it's aligned at the bottom. So it's aligned at the bottom, so A is on the bottom and B is on the top. And so when you're doing a differential and you're subtracting on the voltage domain, which is in the vertical axis, it's B minus A. and the difference is whatever. So, like if you're doing a peak to peak, if you're doing a peak to peak measurement, you're subtracting from top to bottom, right?
Yes. All right, I think that's good. Now, remember, if anybody saw the M3 stream I did the other day, um, the uh, the voltage output for sync on all I/O boards is supposed to be high if you're using a D-sub connector, because uh, it's supposed to coincide with those standards. That's why I did that whole thing of, beware of Mr. SCART cables. That wasn't drama. That was just a way to catch your eye so that you actually read the article that just simply said if you're taking a D-sub connector and going into a SCART port, always attenuate sync. And if I'm wrong and you don't need to attenuate it, but you do anyway, the worst possible thing that could happen is you drop the voltage too low and you don't get a signal. You don't blow equipment out.
That's right.
So whereas on the flip side, if it's too high, then you could do some serious damage. So that is 1.15 volts on the sync line, which is fine. If we ran that through an HD15 to SCART or a properly attenuated, MiSTer SCART cable, that would be at a normal voltage. So that's cool. So let me then take the next couple of readings and we'll go from there. And this is both to test the scope as well as to get a baseline reading of the original I/O boards. Let me see. Do you see anything I'm doing, or is my fat shoulder just in the
Perfectly.
way?
Nope. Perfectly.
So essentially, all I'm doing here is adjusting the voltage so that we see the square wave on the screen, and then adjusting the time so that we see more than just one of the square waves on the signal.
That's right. That's right.
And also, if anybody, I'm not sure if you could see it too close, but you might be able to. All right, so on the screenshot that I have on screen, the on the right hand side, the third box from the top says probe 1x. When you reset the settings like we did before, it defaults to 10x. This is also something you would run into is if you grabbed a hand probe versus plugging in versus BNC. I cannot tell you how many times I've looked at a reading and gone, "Oh my God, this thing's going to explode my console. What do I do?" And it's actually because the probe is set to 10x, and we need to set it to 1x for direct readings like that. So
That's
that's a
right.
very
That's
common
right.
mistake to make if you're switching between probe and just regular, but also a funny mistake to make because it's very scary until you realize it's not at all. It's the wrong setting.
Now, Bob, one question for you. With the does the hold on, I'm going to burp. Excuse me. Do these VGA boards, do these analog boards, do they output DC coupled or AC coupled video?
Don't know. Should I be setting
Let
go
me look
back
at
here?
my.
I have it set to DC couple here. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't
Well,
have this
what
product. I don't.
consoles output DC coupled, right?
Uh, well, this is the miss. Hold on. Let me just take a look at something.
My measurement could be a hair better before I put it on
I'm
screen. Let
just
me just do that real quick. Sorry for
curious about this. I have an old Mr. IO board here. I'm curious if there are any AC coupling capacitors on the board that AC couples the video and removes the DC content.
I think this is more
Yeah,
fair.
for this measurement, for this measurement, you're perfectly fine either way. It just changes where it's going to live, and it just any DC offset. I don't think that there's going to be anything. I don't think that's going to be really impactful with the Mister here. Don't worry about it.
All right, so
It's
I'm
more just a
switching this
personal
over to the
curiosity.
blue reading that we just took, and that is 792 millivolts, which is not
Jesus
at all
Christ.
too high to blow out your equipment. Not even close. There is
Is it?
zero safety issues with this. But it's where you start to, like you saw in the SNES video, in the Retro Castle Mister video, that's where you start to lose detail because the image starts to wash out. So, on probe set to 1x. A weird little blip on this one. That's interesting.
Bob, hold on just a second. Can you give me 2 seconds?
Yeah.
All right, give me 1 second.
Uh, yeah, this is interesting. I wonder what this is. It's possible I have the sync on green switch toggled on this one. So let's make sure that we're only testing voltage on this. And if there's something else weird, that's on me. The bad side about having all my settings reset is now I got to redo how everything looks on here because I had it all set so it always looks nice when you take a measurement. Weird little blip. I'm going to take this screenshot, but then I'm also going to recheck this reading and see if I got something wrong here, this is still the old board, but I want to do the diligence. There's the green. So it's odd. There's those little dips in the bottom of the square wave. We're set to leave everything set properly. It's a lower voltage. So just to double check, I am going to plug green into channel 3 that we just did to verify that it's the same. Yeah.
Sorry about that, everyone. I'm back again. Oh, oh, sorry, that's me just yawning.
Interesting. Do you
So what
see
are we?
what's up on screen right now? It could be that I have the sync on green switch flipped, so let's just continue on with red, but that was a little weird.
What I see right now looks like you have a 768 delta. You have 768 millivolts on whatever channel. Channel 2?
Yeah.
We went from 798, now we're into 768. So that's
Yeah,
a
and do you see that little
20%,
blip?
20 millivolts. I do. I see a little ringing there on the rising edge.
Now
Yep.
that could very well be, once again, that I just didn't flip the sync on green switch. So
But let's get back to that. This thing's outputting 798 millivolts.
this one was 760, green was or blue was at 790. Yeah.
You're getting to the point to where you have almost irrecoverable video content. You've saturated your video line too far.
All right. So this
Too hot,
is
in other words, ladies and gentlemen. That's too bright. When something gets so bright and when something gets so bright and you crush all of your lower registers like that, regardless of how much you darken or drop the brightness on your television, there's going to be video content there that is saturated out and you cannot recover.
well, this is actually worse because red is showing even a different voltage. So not only is blue too hot, this one is also incorrect. Let me double check that I didn't flip that switch though. And let me also just triple check the Mr. INI file to make sure I'm not doing something wrong there, which I can't imagine that I would because everything's looking fine. But, I warned everybody this was a slow and steady stream. I just want to make sure I get all of this correct. And then as soon as we're done with these readings, I'm going to swap it out to the other board. I'm just checking
Bob,
the
I'm
Mr.
not I'm not a Mr. Aficionado, but I don't know if the audience can see this, but the Mr. board that you're testing, is it the Mr. board that I am currently holding up? Is it the Mr. board that I'm currently holding up to the camera just so that I know what it is precisely we're looking at right now?
Yeah, it's the older version, so it's probably that one. Yes.
Okay, okay, gotcha. This is IO board version 6.1 2020.
So you know what? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I am going to download the latest Mr. INI file. Uh,
To see if that okay.
because I think I got everything right, but if we're getting a baseline reading here, it's very important that I do this right. But the good news is that as soon as we verify it, everything else is going to just fly right through. So
Right, exactly. It's just taking the time to double check here and to make sure that our baselines are accurate. So that's a very good thing to do. I'm very proud of you, Bob, for coming up with that. God, I just cannot believe. I had a feeling that these things swung a little bit higher. I thought maybe 730, 740, but to the north of 760, 770, 780, almost 800. That's really
yeah, I
that's
mean, I
not very
very
good.
distinctly remember when I was still living in New York, and when I got that 850 reading, you were like, "That's not." I mean, it was typical Bob Voltar, banter. It was, "You're a moron. There's no way you got that right. No one's gonna sell a board with that. You're doing something wrong." And that's when you walked me through the recalibration of everything. And we even tried with a probe. We had left it plugged in to 75 ohm terminators, and we tried it with just a probe connected to it. I mean, we really went above and beyond to make sure that reading was correct, and it absolutely was. Which once
I mean,
again will not blow out your
okay.
equipment, but it's not good.
No. So I'm not yeah, I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but did these things have been this board has been sold for like literally years now, like 4 years. Did the person did the people selling this board, they just not care, or they just making money off of it, or did they not know how to test it, or I don't understand how this
I
I don't
don't.
understand this to be
I
sold.
never got an answer. I just got rudeness. So,
Did you ask?
oh yeah, I went over this in the other stream. I don't want this to turn into a shit talking stream because I honestly think this one's going to be
I
awesome.
don't
But
I don't want you to shit talk. I just want to know the objective facts here. That's all I'm asking. I don't want to make it into a drama fest.
I was getting
I have no
answers like
backstory.
it doesn't matter, or well, I tested a DAC from Amazon that was higher, so that means it's fine. Then, like, I was getting answers like that. I was getting
Oh
the answers
god.
that you would get if it were a situation like, "Hey, I'm building a one-off prototype for me. What do you think?" Not, "I sold thousands."
Yeah, unfortunately, I know there are a couple of other things that are made and sold in the Mister community that are just poorly engineered and quite frankly are kind of embarrassing. It's embarrassing to see them being sold the way they are. It's just,
But
in
no
my opinion,
safety
and I'm not
issues, right? Nothing from a
no, no.
safety.
Listen, yes, actually, there is something from a safety issue. There was a USB hub that was being sold. Well, I'll put it to you this way. I need more data on it, but there was a USB device, an add-on being sold, and it absolutely shorted across, magic smoke, and thank God it caught. There was a plastic enclosure around the mister, and it melted and effectively caught fire to the PLA plastic enclosure that was 3D printed around it. So yes, yes. I have personally seen an instance of that, but unfortunately, a lot of the things that I've seen, or some of the things that I've seen, and I'm not naming vendors, and I'm not being a jerk, and I'm not trying to be dramatic or anything, but some of the stuff to me is just probably took about 20 seconds of engineering, and it's just a poor opportunist like level grift as far as I'm concerned. And that's all I want to say. And that's all that needs to be said.
But there's also, I
And
mean, there's also different spectrums that you need to consider when doing stuff like this. And it's like if somebody is building a handful for some friends and they're listing it on Facebook Marketplace and they're not opening a store and they're not making, they're not quitting their jobs to do a business around this. It's not great, but it's also not something where I would go, "Oh, what the hell are you doing?" It's like, okay, I get it. You're trying your best. You're not going to hurt anything, like whatever. It's when you build a business off of other people's work and then just copy that work verbatim, which is totally allowed. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But it's up to the person who's making all the money on that to then test all of this stuff to make sure that everything is under, to do all the last minute little tweaking. I mean, this is one of the reasons why so many people I know open source stuff and don't bring it to market, because that last 10% of effort is by far the most pain in the ass, no doubt.
that's right.
And it's not
That's
easy.
right.
And a lot of people are like, no, look, here's your thing for free. Take it for free. You sell it, but you do the last work, which I just think that's awesome. I have zero
Well, that's kind
negativity
of
about that.
that's kind of the roadmap and path that the triple bypass took, right? That was pretty much it was largely complete, but in a lot of ways largely incomplete. And the community took it upon themselves because that's exactly what Renee wanted. Here, I've put my bid on it. It's your turn now. If you want this to be more, you can do whatever you want with this. I wash my hands of it, and it's yours. And the triple bypass for the Sega Genesis has now been very successful because of exactly what you're talking about. That thing has matured and blossomed into something that's just become a cornerstone for the Sega Genesis, as far as I'm concerned. But
Okay,
my
I
problem, Bob,
redid
is
blue,
go ahead.
and it's
Yes, Bobby.
blue is at 768 millivolts now. I did have the green switch in the wrong position. So just out
Okay.
of curiosity, I'm just gonna flip the switch and see if the sync level or the voltage level doesn't change on blue. So I'm wondering if this old board is really intolerant to heat, and that's why we're getting such wildly different ratings.
Could be.
790 versus 760.
Could be. Now that could be it. It could be a heat sensitivity. I don't think I certainly don't think it's your oscilloscope at this point. I think we've pretty much determined that it's not. This is not a calibration issue. Um,
All right, and what I will also say is now that I flipped that switch, that little interference is gone. So those readings that I just took were completely invalid, which is why I'm very blunt about doing this right and taking your time to do the boring stuff like we just did. Um, so let me double check this. Yep. So I didn't even change the measuring lines at all. All I did is just recenter the green, and it's all of the little dip is gone, and it's still 768. So um, this is not as bad. It's still not great, but it is not as bad. But the switch had nothing to do with red and blue. So it is I'm wondering why there's such a swing in voltages. So when we test the new board, we'll test it twice just for this exact reason. Wow, that's
boy,
so we're getting slightly different readings the whole time. This is um I'm gonna call it at this because this is much more forgiving than the first set of readings. So I think let's just give the benefit of the doubt. And here is red at a 732 millivolts. So you're still too hot on blue and green, but not drastically, but you're still too hot. But the mismatch, probably not enough to make a big difference.
I also
So
wonder things like what were the tolerance and resistors on the I/O board or whatever board you call that outputs the VGA and the analog videos. Like how tight are the tolerances on those things? Right? Is that
yeah,
10%, 20%, 5%? That certainly would contribute to the swing that you're seeing here,
yeah,
possibly.
strange, but all right. So let's unbox the new board and install the new board now. And let me get my camera all set up so you can see it. Up, turn on some more lights. Pull the plug on this one. So, I'm not sure if I ever showed you this, Zach, but back when I worked for that company that made medical grade computers, I was at, and I'm sorry to everybody who's already heard this story, but I was at a customer and they were like, hey, you make all in one computers, that's great, but we also would love to have the same type of thing mounted under a desk for some of the other installations. Is that something that you guys have? It would basically just need to have the same thing. It'd even be great if it had the same software image. We just want it not all in one. And without missing a beat, I was like, yeah, yeah, we got that. And oh, really? You do? It's like, yeah, it's the same everything, same specs. All you got to do is just, it's sealed. It's not fanless, but it is sealed. And my boss is nodding next to me. We get in the car afterwards, and he's like, "What the fuck was that?" We don't have that product. I was like, of course we do. All we have to do is take the same exact stuff we have on our shelf and rearrange it with this and that, and with very little cost. And he's like, all right, I trust you. If you say you can do it, fine. But this one's on you. So I designed this with the engineer Axel I used to work with to take all of the components that we had off the shelf and use the least amount of changes and have it mountable in any orientation, upside down, sideways, right side up, and it worked. And it was right before the company went out of business. So, but so
God,
this
Jesus.
little small form factor box was kind of my claim to fame for like a week and a half. Probably could use some. Did you ever do hardware design for your IT stuff, or were you still like IT software rollout type of thing?
Oh no, we did a lot of the companies that I worked for. I was a systems engineer for a medical company that was in the business of buying financially distressed hospitals, medical offices, doctors' offices, professional physician services offices, and we were also in the business of working with vendors to come up with new technologies, both in hardware and software, to streamline certain processes throughout the various medical fields, all the way from billing cycle to actual medical procedures. Um, I had a hand. I had a little bit of a hand in all of that stuff.
Yeah, so a small company, so everybody wore many hats type of thing.
That's right. That's right. I wore a
That's
variety of
exactly the
hats
company I
there.
worked for. I loved it. I loved doing it that way.
You know what? I thought at the time that I wasn't going to like that, and that I didn't really like the job. I thought at the time that would be a terrible pain in my ass. But the fact is, I really did like it too. I really did like that too. Because I knew that everybody that was working on a project, pretty much they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. It's also nice to be in an environment where you're just taken seriously, not like, well, your job title says that that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So, no, your idea doesn't matter. Like, well, maybe my job title doesn't do it, but it doesn't make me wrong. Like, come on. All right, I think it was probably stupid to try to remove that with the board still in. So let me pop this out real quick. I was trying to save time and ended up wasting a bit of time. By the way, this small form factor PC, this was repurposed on a stream a while back to fit the Atlantis ITX adapter, which is essentially a PCB that's mostly just a physical adapter, but also has different pathways to solder or bolt on adapters. So you could have it as cheap as like 15 bucks, I think, 20 bucks or something like that. And as expensive as however many, options you want. But this essentially allows you to turn a standard PC into a MiSTer case.
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
All right.
768
Oh,
millivolts,
uh,
798 millivolts.
what am I caught on here?
Bob, so Bob, having that data, and again, I don't know a lot about Mister, and I'm not really involved in that community so much, but what would you tell people who see this? Uh, Do they need to replace that Mr. board? Is there a modification we can do to maybe attenuate the output so that you're not losing video content from it being so bright? What would you
So,
suggest to people if they're bothered by this?
um, I wouldn't really know where on this board, and these are very tiny components. Let me just try to set it to manual focus real quick. These are very, very small components. These are not things that your average person should be hand soldering. So even if you did find the resistor values to try to mess around with it, it's not what your average person would be doing. So I
Excuse
don't
me.
really
Okay.
know, to be honest with you. I don't. You'd have to decide that yourself. But the most important thing you need to know is
It's not
if
going to hurt anything.
there's not going to hurt anything. Period. End of story. However, if you're somebody who's got like a calibrated BVM, and you really just want to get the absolute best, the 24-bit I/O boards, meaning the RetroCastle digital I/O board, or potentially this one that I'm opening up right now, would absolutely be an upgrade for everything. Would get a little upgrade, but the PlayStation and N64 cores and any of them that could use 24-bit color would be a very big upgrade. So here we're opening this up. It comes with brand new I/O board using a Sega Saturn DIN, completely original. I've never seen a Sega Saturn DIN on a Mister kit before. Sorry. I'm keeping it positive. Heatsink, which I already have a heatsink on this one, and there's already a fan. Um, there's a fan on this as well, which I'll probably use this one just because it might be quieter than the other. So that's it. Basic kit. Mean that in a good way. Like, you get what you need. No BS. That was supposed to be a compliment. It just didn't really sound like one. And looks like there's this power jack, but there's no place to plug it in. That makes sense to you?
So are you saying there's a power jack because that board has to be separately powered? It can't get powered off the headers. It's a hat. It plugs into the top of the Mister. Does it not get powered that way? Okay, so obviously it doesn't. It has to be
No,
powered.
so the D well, if it Ivory's board, the Retro Castle one, you just power it with USB-C and you don't need this barrel plug at all. Oh, wait. I think the barrel plug might be for people that also use that USB attachment that he had on there. So,
Well,
that's
let's see the
cool.
front of it. Can you give us a shot of it? Like just some nice shots of the front of the board? Like I've never seen it before. I'd like to see it.
That's the barrel adapter, and I think that's for
Okay.
people that have the USB. Here is let me try to so here is
I,
the
I just yeah. Okay. Good. I see. Gotcha. Okay, I see now. So it's just a little bridge. Okay.
So I think the bridge goes the opposite way. I think the bridge goes from the D10 to the USB board, and I think you're powering directly off USB-C. I'm just guessing though. And
Yep.
power, finally a power button built in. Ivory was the only one who built a power button into those things.
Oh,
Power,
and USB-C. That looks really nice. That looks really nice.
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really,
Yep.
I truly think this because Kuro already tested it. So I think this is going to be awesome. The reason I want to retest it is credit where credit's due, right? You know, I shit all over rightfully shit all over the old one, but also I personally have been
Right.
involved in situations in both retro and
Uh-huh.
in that other company where I got example or production samples that were perfect. And then when I actually got the production versions, they were slightly different. They were lower quality. So that could happen to anybody. Anybody. Could happen to you, could happen to Pork. That is not a dig. That's not a compliment either. It's just, it is what it is, right? Water's wet. Sometimes manufacturers screw you over. It happens. So that's just why I wanted to test a production version. So I had a friend of mine buy one, out of state,
You,
and
you
send it to me. That way I just get the exact same thing that everybody else is getting. Let
you
me
mean you
double
weren't
check.
offered one for free for a good review, Bob?
Work has sent me a lot of stuff in the past to test, and it was never in exchange for a good review. It was in exchange for an honest review. Problem I had was I never had any of my feedback taken seriously. So All right, sync on
I'm
green
sorry to hear
switch. I
that.
don't want to screw this one up like I did last time, so sync on green off. Open that. Okay, well, let's check the rest of this out. So USB power in, correct. That's what that was. Power toggle button, OSD menu button. Dips to enable 24-bit depth are enabled by default. By the way, I'm just going by the link that is in the description right now. I'm just reading right off of that. I do remember you have to flip some switches on the DE10 itself. He's got that right here, very clearly pictured. No, no sarcasm. Why is sometimes when I'm being genuine, it sounds like I'm being a douchebag? I'm not. I mean that.
It's okay.
So for the Pro version with analog audio, switch 0 has to be on and the rest have to be off. So 0 has to be on, and I thought there was one more setting that needed to be flipped. No, the other setting that needs to be flipped is for um, older I/O boards to be compatible with the new software, like the Jamix, which is another awesome piece of equipment. If you have a Jamix and you wake up one, I think I'm back. Yeah, my battery died on my wireless mic. Can you
Okay,
hear me
there we
now?
go. Sorry about that. Yep. You're in good. You got good levels here.
Well, you guys all missed a long rant about Zach was being a douchebag and ignoring me, but apparently I was the douchebag who
No,
let his battery die. Oops.
no, I was asleep. The thing is, I fell asleep.
Um. So what I was asking, when did I leave off?
Bob, like I said, I wasn't paying attention to you because I was incredibly bored. I don't
There.
know.
Well, the rant was I was asking you if you ever ran into a scenario where you had a production sample sent to you that was
Uh
perfect,
huh.
and then the production units were different.
So that has happened to me on more than one occasion, and that is exactly why I have chosen not to deal with specific vendors that may operate in our scene. And I'm not going to name names, but I've absolutely had the experience where something was sent to me to analyze and to provide feedback on publicly. And when I did, it was raving or it was very good. But what the product that was shipped to customers wasn't commensurate to the product that I received. And so there was a huge discrepancy there, and that caused a lot of problems. So, yes, that has happened to me, and remarkably, that has happened to me more with small time creators that are of like the ilk and size of, say, me, than it has from big companies that have a lot of money and have a lot of manufacturing resources,
Hmm.
interestingly enough.
The worst one, I've told the story before, so I'll be quick. But the power supplies that we ordered for the first round of our medical grade supermodel computer that we had, um, all of the first 100 boards sent to us were flawless. Passed medical grade 60601-1 testing. We put it into production. They passed in production, but we didn't do a deep dive testing because we didn't think they needed to. And in fact, some of that 100 did go into the production line. So when the next 5,000 arrived, we just mixed those right in and started going through. And the capacitors they used that they switched out, it no longer was medical compliant, so that was just straight up illegal. So we could have sued them if we really wanted to. We didn't, just because, make things easier. But they also replaced the capacitors with such cheap ones that occasionally, upon boot up, it wasn't sending the power fast enough. The capacitors weren't charging fast enough, so it would just freeze. You'd get a black screen.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Well, I've also had the inverse experience. I had something sent to me. I had a specific Nintendo 64 product sent to me, a video product that had problems, and I didn't. They didn't. Well, first of all, they didn't send it to me. A customer sent it to me because they had problems. And I tweeted about it and asked if other people had problems, and a couple of them did. And the company effectively ghosted me and told me that they weren't going to work with me anymore. They didn't want to work with me anymore because I divulged honesty about a product. So
Well, let me
I've
play
had
devil's advocate for a moment. Was that a prototype that you were talking about publicly? Because I'd be pissed too.
No, sir. This was a product. This was a production unit that was sold to a customer. The customer was having problems with their unit, with this N64 unit, and rather than with not getting any help from the manufacturer, they came to me. I got it, and then only when I got it did they decide to say anything about it, and they started working with me as if I was supposed to work with them for free, which I did. But ultimately, they got upset because I tweeted about it when I asked if other people, in a kind way, experienced X issue with this, and they did. And they decided that that was the final straw, that they weren't going to work with work with me anymore because I wouldn't brush something under the rug, and I was being honest. That
Yeah,
has
so
happened. That did happen.
that is a completely different scenario. Because I've
It is.
also
It is.
had people like publicly talk about prototypes before, but it's like this is a prototype. I sent it
That's
to
right.
you to get your feedback to see if we needed to change it, or like you're not supposed to be doing that. And I've had that done in both companies, both the medical grade company and this one, and it was enraging at the least. But
Yeah. Yep. It's infuriating.
that's totally different.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like when I sent you the SNES two chip and edge enhancer, had you told me that this, had you said, your clone of a product isn't working very well because it sucks, everybody, I'm going to tweet this. That would have been very bad of you, Bob, and I would have been very upset. I'd have been very upset had you have done that. And if Mark and Corey were to have done that from my life in gaming, I would have cried in bed that my clone product was substandard.
All right, I am not getting. Oh, is that?
Bob, you didn't acknowledge anything I just said.
I heard everything you said. I think you know what my thoughts are on that.
Well, you didn't say anything, Bob. So, number one, how dare you? Okay. Number two, that's all. Number two, I refer back to number one.
Um, me plug these in, and that. So I'm not
What do
getting
you? What?
sync up here. I'm wondering if I have to make any other changes. You see the sync rolling on that, but I am getting video. So what I think I could do
Okay.
then is plug this scope back in, launch the test suite, and
Uh huh.
start to measure from there.
Yeah. So we've the idea was to take the modify the INI, right? So that. Well, what are we doing? What is it that we were doing again?
Well, this is just now testing the new board. So let's see what we got.
Okay.
The
But
only problem I
okay.
have is that I do not have a Sega Saturn sync on C-Sync cable. I have a sync on composite and a sync on Luma, and I don't. I think that that should have been part of the design. So, I could be wrong, but I would have hoped that that could have been taken into consideration. So It looks like sync is there, but I have been having a weird issue with my my monitor here, this little one. Sometimes it just doesn't sync right. Maybe I don't have a switch flipped. Let me squeeze my fat ass back here, and maybe the V hold needs to be adjusted. I've run into
So
that
you're saying
before.
that this thing isn't this IO board isn't designed to sync to trigger on composite video. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. That's what we're gonna find out in like a minute.
Okay. 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 Got you.
And just for the record, I think I was pretty clear about this, but if not, that rolling sync that you just saw on my monitor very likely is the fault of my monitor. So we'll
Okay.
find out. And actually, right now, let me load that.
You need to get RetroTech USA over there to fix it.
Hey, I just realized
Did you?
something. The first time we
Uh
did
huh.
those tests at different voltage levels, we were using the Genesis core, and the second time we were using the Super Nintendo core. I wonder if the color outputs would be different for those, because this is
Could be.
people don't seem to realize how accurate these things are. The voltages could be reflecting the original SNES. So we'll see. We'll see in a minute. All right, we have the HD Retrovision test suite up, and we have. Oh, I actually think this is a good thing, but it looks like with this sync on Luma cable, Luma's part of the signal. So let me
So
take a
yeah,
quick shot of that.
you've got your brightness intensity, and then you've got your sync tips embedded in there too. So that's good.
I believe on the Retro Castle cases, when you're running in RGB mode, you don't get that. But there is no
So
right or wrong for that one.
are you saying that obviously then luminance is stripped and it's stripped from the signal, and so you only have sync pulses going across?
Correct, unless you set it to that mode. So
Okay.
let me drop this in the chat. Tony, are you still here? You're probably working, but if you're still here, let me know because this is relevant to your setup that we talked about yesterday.
That's pretty neat. I don't suppose there's any reason to strip the luminance data from that as a sync source. Any monitor or any display should trigger off that still,
I don't think there's
unless
a
it
specific
requires composite
reason
sync.
to, but um, yeah. So composite sync equals 1 is enabled in the Mr. INI file. Just to double check on that one. Let me open up that file too. Just hell, we're double checking everything. Why not, right? So composite sync. Maybe it wasn't. Let me redo this. The only settings I really want to change is composite sync equals 1, VGA mode equals RGB, because that's what we're doing. Odd that I forgot that. VGA sync on green equals 0, because we don't need that. Everything else we could just have default for this. So let me save and re-upload that one.
Hey, Craig, nice to see you. Hope everything is going well for you too. Good to see you, my friend.
All right, overwrote. Let me just reboot this sucker now. I'm really digging the single push power button. That means I could now wire the power button on my you know what, I'll do this after in case I do something stupid and blow it out. But that means I could now wire the power button on my case to that. I had it wired to OSD, but I think that's pretty cool. I like
I
that.
do I do like the ITX form factor case quite a bit. I think that's pretty snazzy.
So
Bob, with your 1054, do you ever use Ultrascope? Do you have a USB tether between the scope and your computer?
so that's what I'm using to get this signal now. However,
Okay.
uh, go here. That's what I'm using to get the signal. I just whatchamacallit. In fact, let me get that measurement off of here because that might have not been the right one. But what I do like about that is just you get the screenshots. What I don't like is there isn't like a standard preview you could do for it. You know, like I would
Oh, I
love
see.
to
Where it's
have
like
something
capturing a
on
video
screen
field.
mimic the scope.
Yep, yep. I
That way I
agree.
wouldn't have to have all these zoomed in shots. And you would think that they would want to add that too, because imagine every nerd streaming and you just see live the Rigel window with their logo and all that stuff on there.
That shouldn't be difficult to implement. I mean, as far as that's concerned.
All right, interesting that
Right.
I'm not.
Rigel's an interesting company. They do a lot of things really well, but some of the things that you would assume would be so basic, like so on the old scopes, like on the predecessor to this, doing a which is what I am so accustomed to even today. Doing a factory reset is literally just a matter of dropping into a menu and doing a factory reset. You don't have to go through this entire ritual. So for me, it's there you go. Yep,
That's
you're
all it
pointing
was.
at
I
something on
could
the
swear
monitor.
I put it in the Mr. INI file, but whatever.
Bob, you've messed this up. Bob, you have failed me for the last time.
So we're confirmed that it is clearly outputting analog video and looks fine. Let me get this back into the scope. We're on red, and let's we need to add the termination since we're plugged directly in. And Luma is still there, which I don't have a problem with that. The only issue is if you're somebody like Tony who has an Extron crosspoint, you can't use those retro gaming cables, BNC Saturn cables, because you're still going to get the Luma line on. When I'm done
Well,
with this, I'll test the Retro Castle one just in case. Oh, I hit screenshot before I
but what
put the
if?
measurement.
Well, hang on. What if you take the so on the on the Sextron cross point? What if you switch that little attenuation terminator on the back to like to 510 ohms? So there's little switches back there, right, for each input that adjusts the sync threshold, or they it adjusts the sync amplitude threshold. If you press one of those little switches for the whatever input you've got the Luma cable connected to, will the Extron trigger off of that and work?
I am 99.9% sure no. It has to be a perfectly clean C-Sync signal, and I'm also 99% sure that the voltage isn't
Okay.
so much a big deal. It's just that it doesn't understand anything other than that. So here we go. This is the correct reading, minus Bob screwing it up. It's 312 millivolts, because I also didn't
Right on the
have the
nose.
75 ohm termination on last time, that actually would have been a perfectly good reading anyway, but this is even better. So you still have Luma
Yep,
on the line, but I'm cool with
that
all
looks
of this.
excellent.
So sync,
Yep,
no
that's
problems
excellent.
whatsoever.
Right on the money. That's a
So I'm
standard
triggered. Let's
luminance
go.
waveform. And the sync is also proportional to the video line. So the sync is about 310 millivolts, and let me see. Yeah, that looks really good. I'm impressed. Impressive. Most impressive. Ooh.
All right, I'm gonna make sure I get this as close as possible. I want to get a really good reading here.
Now, Bob, who made this one again? Who is
This is
the
Pork.
creator of? Yeah, okay. This is a did he make this, or is this another
No,
thing
this
that
is Sorg's design,
Sorg made?
but I believe he
Okay.
added the. I believe Sorg's design only had the D sub connector. So I think Pork added his added the Saturn. I could be wrong
Okay,
about
so
that.
this
I don't know. I'm guessing, but it's not a compliment or an insult. So if I got it
No, I
wrong,
understand.
whatever. But
So Sorg has really updated this thing. Like, the IO board. This is significantly different.
yeah, my speculation is that I don't think he realized how many people loved analog video until we really started doing deep dives onto the signal. So this is 716 millivolts on blue. Could
Right.
be a hair bigger than that, but no more than 720. I would call that great. How about you?
Excellent. That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
All right, let me keep
I
going.
try to shoot between I try to shoot between anything between 700 or 680, 675, and 725-ish, 30-ish. I'm okay with 730.
Hey, shoot the
Yeah,
core. You're thinking about a different I/O board. This is the new 24-bit board, but keep them coming though. You never know. I could clearly make mistakes all the time. I just did, but I just wanted to let you know. Like Ivory's built in with the little HDMI cable that comes out. That requires direct video. This would not.
and you know what? In fairness to Sorg, I can understand that. Like, I can understand this is a digital to digital device in the first place. I totally get the fact or the idea that someone would think that analog is like a second class citizen and more of an afterthought, and not a lot of time went into that when making the first IO board to be as perfect as it could be.
Well, I
That
could
makes
also completely understand that I did all of this work on all of these cores to bring you all of these amazing retro gaming things, and you're arguing about a couple of millivolts that won't hurt anything. Like I don't know if
yeah,
that's what he
totally.
said, but I wouldn't mind if that was his answer. Um,
Yeah,
wait, this is not it. This is not it. Wait. Sorry. 24. Sorry. There we go. 716 green. So it matches perfectly. If you just were paying attention and saw it jump up, that's because that was the old reading that I clicked on by accident. So far we're 2 for 2 here. Rise up red a little bit. We click on the right one this time. All right, and that's red. As you can see, spot on 716 millivolts.
excellent.
By the way, Durf chimed
Yeah,
in and said that flipping the input switches on the Extron didn't work for his back in the day. So it's probably an issue for all crosspoint models that rebuild sync with ADSP built in. That makes perfect sense to me. So far so good. I want to redo these readings with the Genesis core. But so far we have voltage output that is spot on. I don't have any issues with any
looks
of that,
great.
period.
Looks great. Yep.
Did you see Kuro's analysis of it?
I didn't. I haven't. I haven't yet.
Oh, it apparently even component video is this spot on.
That's fantastic.
So this is
Analog
also
lovers
great
should be really
because
happy.
this does verify that whoever he's making these from is being or having making these from. Jeez, I'm off today. Whoever is making these for him, whatever contract manufacturer, is being consistent. So that's good, right? So voltage on voltage. I'm not going to redo the readings, but I'll call them out. That the nothing is changing switching to the Genesis core. Nothing. Not
Okay.
even by a millivolt is it changing. So the old I/O board was really just that off. I think. But I mean, all three are 716. Nothing changed there. What I would like to try real quick is I have a composite video cable here. So these are the ones that were decent. There were at least 2 molds of these going on, which some douchebag know-it-alls kept saying that Bob thought that he was. I like how when people tell me what I'm thinking, but these
Yeah, me
were. I
too.
was accused of reviewing a Bitfunks cable, and maybe this did come from Bitfunks, but there were multiple molds that you could tell by this, and this one is perfectly meh. It's not great. It's not bad. It's totally fine. It was cheap. They don't make them anymore. And it's a really cheap and easy way to get RGBS out of it, except it syncs on composite video. So this is cheap for a PVM, but not for a crosspoint. But I want to see what's coming out of composite video now when we put it into the scope. And there's no bad. I'm just curious here on. We trigger it. That's odd. It's not really triggering on anything, even though the sync signal is there. So since we know that the voltages are basically perfect, I'm going to plug this back into the monitor. The voltages will now probably be a little bit off because we're relying on the 75 ohm termination of the monitor itself. But we
Mhm.
don't care about that
That's
now
okay.
because
We
we
don't
know
care.
it's
That's
good.
right. That's okay.
I have made
Well, your
that
scope
mistake
is pretty
before.
dead on. You should feel pretty good in that now. Your scope, a quick self calibration there is tip. You don't have to do a full on thorough calibration 9 times out of 10, especially for measurements like this where we're within like 10 or 15 millivolts. That self calibration takes about 10 minutes and 5 or 10 minutes depending, and it really gets you just as close as you need to be for stuff like this.
Yeah, that self-calibration, I mean, that clearly worked because all three of those readings were down to the millivolt perfect. So, all right, let's plug this in. Getting a signal. Would help if I plugged the cable back in, but all right, so I am still getting a signal with the original cable. Let me plug in the one that syncs on composite video and see what we got there. I don't have a sync on C-Sync cable, but I mean, I would bet one of my monitors that it's the same, well within tolerance. That's not a mistake Pork would make. So I'm very confident to say that's fine. Okay. So I am getting,
Mhm.
let me,
Well, if you would stop having those dildo ads on your website, Bob.
I know. I mean, I couldn't help it. I had to cover my website with plastic dicks. I mean, what could I say?
Bob, does that say something about you, or does that say something about the browser of your website? That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I mean, you know how cookies work. The people who design the website places the cookies on their website for you to be able to get that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's embarrassing, isn't it? Oh my goodness.
Well,
Oh Lord, it
whatever.
happens.
This product's fine. I'm
What?
not
What?
I regardless of how I've been treated in the past, a product is a product. So here is
Oh, God.
CVBS as sync. We have
Yeah,
the
this is all spot on.
same great voltage, and that still looks like there's a Luma signal going through that. So,
Yep.
um, this is not a problem at all. There is zero things wrong with this. But what people need to know is if you're trying to use this through an Extron crosspoint, you have to use a C-Sync based cable. So there is no other way around that. So getting one of these cheap cables that I have here, unfortunately, even though these aren't really made, and the last time I found them for sale, it was just the Bitfucks ones. But these like $20 cables would have actually been a great thing to use, but they won't sync on those. And I could be missing something. Maybe there's a setting where I could disable that. Maybe there's a jumper. You know what? Let me flip some jumpers. What the hell? We've already proved that this thing's great. I'm already going to recommend it. I'll have the article up by tonight at the latest, but probably before that. So now let's break some stuff. And Zach, I promise, if I break something, I'm not going to cry about it. Blame you.
Well, Bob, this will be the first time, and I will be most thankful that you don't blame me.
All right, let me flip these dip switches and see what happens. Nothing changed on the C-Sync line. Let me flip the sync on green. No, so and I don't see anything else here for that. So once again, not a problem. I'm not nitpicking. This is just things that people need to know before they go to make purchases. And by the way, that thing that I just said was actually the truth. When I lost my job a couple years ago, Zach was trying to walk me through how to do something, and I was like, no. I just let me sell it honestly. Let me just sell it as broken, and I could still get a couple $100. And he was like, no. Be a man. Let's just solder this. And I was tired, and my hand slipped, and I broke it, and I was just blamed
Master
him for
system.
everything, as if it was
Master
his fault
system.
that my hand slipped. I was such a douche. So,
And I fixed it for you.
you did actually. You 100% did. So yeah, I don't go
Never
through hard
mind.
times that often, but when I do, I try my best not to be like that. But it's
That's
know.
interesting. You've put a lot of now that is a Kescher T12 soldering station. You've put a few years on this thing now. What do you think about it? Was it a good investment for the price?
Well, it burnt my house down twice, so no,
Good.
it's I
Good. That's
thought
what
it
I
was
wanted to hear.
excellent. This completely changed how I solder. This and when I actually got a real desoldering station were the two biggest differences. I went
Good. Good.
from not understanding why I couldn't do the things that all of my friends were doing, even though I was following all of your instructions and doing everything the best of my ability to basically, with some practice, doing it. So
Yep. Yep.
what I'm
Good,
adding here
man.
is just simply adding my power button. Let's see if that works. If it really is as easy as soldering these two wires, I'm going to be even more thrilled. We'll find out.
You better find out.
Okay, plug this in and see what happens. Did I just short something out and explode it, or are we good to go?
Mm,
All right, so
looks
that's.
like you're good to
Oh
me.
no, it does work.
There you
Well, that's
go.
awesome.
So it does work on T-Sync.
So
Okay.
I just wait.
I mean, luminance over C-Sync, right? So luminance over
No, I soldered the
clarify.
front power button of this case to the power button inside this mister. That's all I just did real quick because it was
Oh,
already
I'm
still open.
sorry. Okay. Yep. Well, that of
And
course that would work.
it's a sensitive momentary push button switch, so I got to really just tap it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I should probably run an LED light to this thing at the same time, but
So it's just an ATX momentary push button
not
that
quite.
turns
It's
the
a little
power
more
supply on.
finicky than that. I have to play with it in order to get it to power on and off, but I'm all right with that.
We all at our age? Don't we all have to play with it a little bit to get it going at our age?
So yeah, I think this thing is great.
Looks wonderful.
Is there
Great
anything
readings,
anybody
very
else
stable.
wants me to test? I was going to go through the color steps again, but if this thing is outputting the exact same as what Kuro did, then I was going to go to Kuro for the for help and double checking all of this stuff. So I think defaulting to him would be safe. But is there anything else anybody wants to see with this? And if not, I was going to plug in the retro castle case super quick just to double check the sync on that one. And get this little solder blob out
Kuro,
of here.
he's really put in a tremendous amount of work analyzing all these different DACs, and all of those different pieces of hardware to see just how good the video is coming out of all of those. He's put a tremendous amount of work in that, and I think a lot of this stuff, like this, for example, I don't think this would be nearly as good as what it is right now without that data, because for sure that data was used, had to have been.
Yeah, and have you spoke to him at all?
No, never.
Oh, awesome guy. Yeah, it's the type of person. Just if you ever need to reach out, just do it. Don't hesitate. There's no like. It's not like the first time I messaged you where I was like, oh, it's that Voltar guy. I bet she's gonna be a dick to me.
And guess what? True to form, I was.
You actually weren't at all. Like not even a little bit. I felt really stupid afterwards, like wondering why I was hesitating to message you because you were just totally. Our first couple of conversations were perfectly nerdy and straightforward. There was no tone whatsoever, and then I think we realized how much of an asshole we both were, and then here we are.
Yeah,
Now you're
unfortunately.
Lord Voltar, King of the Beep, and I'm a horse fucker.
Well, people really conflate a silly internet persona to how somebody really is. And that's understandable, but I get that. But you will call me Lord Boltar when we're on streams, or Admiral Boltar.
All right, so let's just one last power on just to see this thing out. I'll fire up the retro castle case super quick, and then we are out of here. But so all I need now is a USB-C power because this case powers the board.
Oh,
Power
that's
is on
nice.
by default. It would
What
really
does it
help
have
if
in there,
I
Bob? Does it have a little Pico power supply in there, or how is it delivering power to everything?
I believe the same exact way that the Retro Castle is, where it runs it through the pins on the D10 itself. And now if I want
Okay,
to turn
okay.
this thing off,
Just push the button, push it once. Yep. Cool.
that's it.
That's really
So
cool. You need an
I
LED
wish it
in
would
there. You're right.
default to off, but whatever. I don't care. It's runs quiet enough that it doesn't matter. So, all right, let me grab that Retro Castle case super quick and just verify the voltage for some friends that need that, and then we are done. Um,
Yeah, this has been a very productive stream, Bob. We got the scope self-calibrated. We did some really important measurements. We've determined that the original IO board is just, to be very candid, terrible in its video outputs. It's amazing it's been sold for 4 years like that. That nobody's corrected that. I don't know
Terrible
why
but
this is
not
only
dangerous. Sorry to interrupt, but I just
terrible, but
yeah.
not dangerous. No, that's a very important distinction. Absolutely harmless, but my God, 4 years later, this is only being fixed. Like
Oh, it was more than
that's
that.
interesting to me. Okay, well, that's interesting to me that something can be sold by someone like that for so many years, and I'm going to get hate for that. Well, you're just being a hater. No, I'm not being a hater. Like people pay good money for this stuff, and put a little effort into it if you're going to sell it. Like I know someone else designed it, but at least check it out first. And if you think that's just okay, then we clearly have a different metric or standard of what's okay and what's not. And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so the let me just double check this here. All right. So this is the Retro Castle case, syncing on composite video, but with some of the dips changed. And let
Now
me
we don't know what these
measure.
dips control, right? We've not looked at a manual or anything to see what their logic is.
I don't know where the manual is, to be honest with you, and I just flipped the
Bob, what
dips
kind of
till they
stream is
work.
this?
Let's see.
I just flipped them until they worked.
Yes. So here is the where am I? Retro Castle desync, and this is after the dips are switched. So perfectly fine voltage. I don't know what the weird ripple is, but there is no
Hold on.
composite
Can
video
you zoom in
line
on that?
on there.
Can you zoom in on that a little bit? I want to see the top edge of that.
Sure. Let me get the other one too for you, just to um
Because that's not very good.
yeah. Let me try to get
Is it oscillating? Looks like it's oscillating.
it does. Yeah, but let me grab Sync on Luma real quick too, just to
Okay. Okay, grab them all and then we'll take a look.
yeah. And this is what I've been using. So, if anybody's listening and knows pork, it would be cool if we just knew. Which, once again, no problems. It would just be cool if we knew. Is there a way to make pure C-Sync from the output without any Luma on there for those two? Totally cool. If not, okay. And this is wrong button. So this is now sync on Luma with the proper dips flipped. Luma. So that's perfect. The we could go back and check composite video, but I think that's out of the scope of this stream because I also have it set to output um, S video in the MiSTerAddons file. Like I'd have to change around a bunch of stuff. So I think
Could be a couple of parameters here, right? That makes
yeah, I
that's
think the
beyond the
the
scope of
the
this.
purpose of doing this was just to show people that if you're in a situation like my buddy Tony, where you're trying to hook up to an Extron crosspoint, picking up these cheap cables or getting the nice retro gaming cables, BNC cables that
Don't trigger on
unfortunately
it if
sync
it's
on
not
Luma,
C-Sync.
would actually still
Right.
work. You just have to flip the dips to be to have the correct output on that, and that's all you would have to worry about.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
All right. Well, Zach, thank you so much for joining me on this one. I'm going to have the post up shortly, just showing everybody that this thing is absolutely great. All Kuros work matches what we found for the production versions. And yeah, and I will of course be keeping everybody up to date on all the stuff that you've been working on. So thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob, for being here, and thank you for your body.
And very quick before I go, I just want to apologize once again for getting drunk and falling over in your shed. Sorry about that, but
You know, Bob, these shells didn't collapse themselves, and that's all I'm going to tell the public. Okay.
I'll see everybody later. Thank you very
Take
much
care,
for